Hi there. My name is Greg DePoe. I'm a graduate student at the University of Toronto. I'm getting my PhD in psychology with Dr. Michael Linslet. Welcome to Science Rendezvous. Thanks for joining me today. I'm really excited to be talking to you about optical illusions. So let's get started. I'll believe it when I see it, the science of optical illusions. Today we're going to look at some interesting optical illusions. For example, the picture on the right isn't moving at all, even though it looks like it is. We're going to talk about what we see and what we don't see, and how these can give us some clues about the brain. And we'll see that we can't always believe what we see. So let's talk about the eye. This is a picture of your eye, or a diagram of your eye. And what you can see when you zoom in at the back is that some cells are special, like cones and rods. And what they do is they take light and they turn it into electricity that your brain, this guy, is able to interpret or to make sense of. However, at the back of your eye is also the optic nerve, and that is where your eye plugs into your brain and sends the electrical messages along. Now, when light bounces off an object and it lands on the back of your eye, it is picked up by the cones and rods, and then it's kind of recognized and interpreted by your brain. But when the light hits your optic nerve, it's not picked up by any photoreceptors. And so the result is a blind spot. And the truth is, this has been in front of your very eyes for your whole life, but you've probably never noticed. And today, I'm going to show you your blind spot. So take a look at this image. What you'll see is a plus sign and a circle. But what I'd like you to do is to line up, close your right eye, and look just at the plus sign. Now, as you move in at a certain distance, the dot's going to disappear. So right now, the dot is invisible for me. All I can see is the plus sign, which I'm staring right at. But in my peripheral vision, I can notice that there's a blank white slide on the rest of it. And that's because the light is bouncing off from above me, off my screen, into my left eye, but it's the light that's hitting that dot is landing on my blind spot. So as far as my brain is concerned, it doesn't exist. And my brain, handy thing that it is, fills in that space with the surrounding information. Normally it's not a problem because our eyes are moving all over the place. But when you do that, you can discover that you have a blind spot in your left eye. And if you close your left eye and look at the plus sign here, you can see it's on your right eye too. Because of course, both your left and your right eye have an optic nerve. So not only do we see with our eyes, we also see with our brains. Well, there's a lot of areas in the brain that are involved in understanding what we're seeing. Which I think is pretty cool. For example, this little MT area, that seems to be involved in seeing motion, while V4 seems to be involved in color. And V1 back here is the primary visual area. When your eyes first get a message, they send it to the LGN in the middle of your brain. And then it gets to the back after that. Anyway, let's take a look at another illusion. This one is called the Troxler effect. So here we have some purple circles, pinkish purple circles, and each one is disappearing every few seconds. But of course, it looks like it's going around in a circle. So this is kind of like apparent motion. But what's really interesting about this is if you focus on that plus sign as closely as you can, you might notice something interesting. So stare at the plus sign, and you may notice that the purple dots disappear. And what you see instead is a green dot going around in a circle. This has to do with what scientists call neural adaptation, where the brain gets used to a constant stimuli. Sort of like your brain got used to your blind spot that's always there. And it's a similar sort of thing. Your brain gets used because you're staring at the plus sign. The same brain cells have to process that purple circle over and over and over again. And eventually it seems not that important, and your brain kind of ignores that constant stimulus. So now let's talk about a bonus fact. This isn't an illusion, but I have a question for you. Why did pirates wear eye patches? Was it for style points? Was it because so many of them had an eye injury in a sword fight? Who knows? But some scientists have suggested another possibility maybe. It could be that they wanted to see below deck. You see, pirates spent their time on a wooden ship, and they didn't have electricity, and they didn't have windows. So when they went below deck, it could be very dark. Now, we can see in the dark a little bit, but it takes some time for our eyes to adjust. This is called dark adaptation. So maybe when the pirate wanted to go below deck, they would take their patch, switch it over to the other side, and now this eye would be ready to see in the dark pretty well, while their other eye was ready for the light up above. So maybe that is part of why pirates wore patches. Or it could be for the style points. Now let's try something else. Let's make our motion sensing brain cells tired or fatigued. Let's try putting them in what scientists call a refractory period. We're going to try this by watching a particular video. So what I want you to do here is to focus on this blue dot if you can. So focus on the blue dot. And you might notice something when it changes to a picture. Keep staring at the blue dot. Does it seem like the water's moving? It might if you look, and that is because the area of your brain that was responsible for processing that downward motion became tired because you were staring for so long at this upward motion. By the time you were just looking at a picture of a waterfall standing still, it looked like it was moving downward. That's pretty neat. So now, what scientists call that is the motion after effect. And that's all I have for illusions for you today. So I want to say thanks very much for dropping by with me and for talking about the science of optical illusions. And I hope you have a great time with Science Rendezvous. So thanks, kids and parents. Bye.